up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going through like a complete rundown, okay? I may even put it on the screen of how the Lions are going to completely change this team. And I think this offseason is going to be another big offseason of a lot of moves. This team is completely different from when Jim Caldwell got here because really, you know what? This is a long intro. Let's just get into the video and I'll explain everything. Into the video, basically, I was trying to figure out, okay, because the most important thing as Matt Patricia being a coach is that, you don't need players to love you, but you need players to like you and want to play for you. If your players don't want to play for you, that is a very big problem, man. We know Jim Caldwell left, and then in 2018, there was a lot of things like, oh my gosh, I don't think they're playing for Matt Patricia, and that was like a legit thing. I think a lot of people can understand. They didn't think they were playing for Matt Patricia. Well, now in 2019, we haven't heard as much as that, but they haven't been playing very well. And in 2020, I think it's going to be crazy. I think this roster is going to continue to change. And what do I mean by change? Well, we're getting players that are, I guess you would say, Matt Patricia's guys, or guys that Matt Patricia likes, or guys that want to play with Matt Patricia, okay? Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be successful, okay? Just bringing in guys that you like or that like you doesn't mean it's going to be successful, but it's kind of where this is going, right? I was trying to figure out, okay, what are the Lions doing? What's going on here? And I think I figured it out. What is going on here, okay? So we've been hearing about all this stuff, right? Just hear me out, okay? There's going to be a lot of talking. Glover Quinn, he was on and he was talking about it. He was like, I don't know if the players are really fighting for Matt Patricia and that's why they're not going to win. Then we heard Jace Billingsley, who is Jace Billingsley. We've heard a couple of people stand out and be like, they're not going to win. They don't like him. Tulloch was saying the same thing. This is why we fired Caldwell for this and all of that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, you know what? It seems like all of these guys, maybe they didn't love Caldwell, but they all brought up that, at least he was in the playoffs and, they were competing for the playoffs every single year. I'm like, okay, so these are all past players. So I decided to look, okay, what players talked about Jim Caldwell before he was fired and what did they say about him? Well, the results are pretty shocking. Well, not really shocking, but they're interesting, okay? I'm going to stop the video for a second. I'm going to put the screen on so you guys can see. So just hold up. I'll be right back. Now, I'm not sure how I'm even going to title this video, but here's what I found, okay? Here are the guys that talked about Matt Patricia afterwards, okay? Not Matt Patricia. Here's the guy that talked about Jim Caldwell. And, it's kind of interesting, okay? So the first guy you see is Tahir Whitehead, who now is not with the Lions. Now he's with the Raiders. He said, Coach Caldwell, he's the same guy, win, lose, or draw. He said, same tone, that's what you love about him, and that's what we as players love about him. We went out there and played for our coach, played for each other, and that's the most important thing. If you don't think it's important to want to play for your coach and like your coach, then you're wrong, because that's not true. You have to if your coaches, you don't like your coaches, and your coaches don't really like you, but if you don't like your coaches, that's not good. You're not going to be successful, and your team's not going to be successful, because those are the people that have to buy in, okay? They have to. Tahir Whitehead, no longer with the Lions. Now, again, I don't know what they said about Matt Patricia. Some of you guys have talked out. Some of them haven't, okay? Keep in mind, Jim Caldwell. Tahir Whitehead was with Jim Caldwell. Now he's not with the Lions, okay? Stephen Tulloch, I don't think he's on here. Now he's not with the Lions. Okay, but here, Golden Tate, up next. Not with the Lions anymore. Golden Tate, they traded him the first year with Golden Tate, right? They traded him the first year. Now, that you could say, well, that was a pick move. It could have been, but I think it's still interesting, right? He says, I'll keep saying it. I'm all for Coach Caldwell. I love playing for him. I love who he is as a person, but Bob Quinn's got a job to keep too, right? So I do see that side as well. So look at that. You see what I'm saying here? Okay, so he talks about Jim Caldwell's job, so he knew he had to do something. Then we see the man who just spoke out, Glover Quinn. I mean, nobody knows unless they're talking about Bob Quinn or Mrs. Ford. They are just rumors. They put out rumors all the time. I mean, you see that stuff. They say stuff about me all the time. So people talk. That's what I do. That's what they do. Then you see Asa, who's no longer with the Lions. I love Jim Caldwell. There's no doubt about it. He's a great coach. He doesn't only teach us how to be football players. He teaches you how to be responsible men. It's not all about football. Then you see Golden Tate on if you'd be surprised if Caldwell's fired. Ask somebody else. I don't know. Okay, so you can see here. Now, Kenny Galladay's the one eyeball out here, okay? He says, Coach Caldwell never let anyone talk about it. No one wanted to talk about it. Okay, he talks about exiting. Okay, that's kind of just a little thing in there. Then Golden Tate again. It's a businessman. If you don't win enough, someone's got to make changes. There are some changes that could be changed. We don't know what's going to happen. We're trying to win consistently year in and year out, okay? So you can see all of these guys that talked are no longer with the Lions other than Kenny Galladay, which really wasn't anything had to do with anything. All those guys are not with the Lions. So that is, in my opinion, what's happening with this roster, okay? That is what's going on with this roster. And right here is another article on 97.1. Now, these are kind of old. These aren't super new. So if you guys are trying to find these, you're going to have to look a little bit deeper because they're kind of old. Here he says, after the Lions lose, I think this was after the Lions-Redskins lost, but so I guess it's not super old, but it's not new either. He says, here, let me go up here. Because he talks about it's a process. He says it's a process. He wants to win, but it's a process. And he says we're fighting every single week to try to go out there and putting ourselves in a position where we can have an opportunity to win. I also know that this is a process. I know there's a lot in play here and that we are going through. And we're trying to build and we're trying to do the best that we can to improve and get better. So when he talks about what the process is, I think this is what the process is. He is trying to get the guys that he likes. Look at this offseason, for example. I actually have another thing pulled out that I can give you guys the exact quotes on what players actually wanted to play for Matt Patricia. And that's why all these free agents that we look at, they wanted to play for Matt Patricia. You know what I'm saying? These guys are going to be here for a certain amount of time. They're going to be here for a while, at least until Patricia and Bob Quinn are gone. This is the process, at least in my opinion, of what Matt Patricia is talking about, okay? So first off, we hear Flowers. He talks about being familiar, and that's a good thing. He says, knowing that I understand the style and techniques and things that he coaches and he prides himself on. So just being able to reunite with someone that you are familiar with, that knows your strengths, your weaknesses, and definitely can take your game to the next level. So I would say he's a pretty significant role. Then Justin Coleman, our cornerback, he says, playing with him, I know he's got a little edge. The fact that he has that edge, you can bring it into a game and you can bring that same mentality just to have a little edge over someone else. Then Jesse James, who said something interesting, I guess. He said, I have some relationships with guys who have played for him before and spoke so highly of him that it really drew me towards Detroit. James said, I just think he's the right guy to lead us to the path for playoff success and Super Bowl. So now those are the guys that we signed. Those are the big free agents that we brought in. Okay, and I thought this was interesting because, you know, we've tried to figure out all the time, what is he talking about? Look, we're not winning, okay? And I'm not saying this means, oh, you should keep Patricia, okay? That's not what I'm saying. If y'all think that's what I'm saying, it's not. But I was trying to figure out what he means because he says a lot of the same stuff all the time, right? All of the same stuff. He always says it's a process, 9-17-1. No, actually, we're now 9-18-1, I believe. So we're like, what kind of process is this? I think this is what he's talking about, and I think, I may be wrong, I think this offseason, we're going to see a lot of changes. And who won't be moved? Who won't be moved? I can tell you one guy that I can nearly guarantee won't go anywhere. Devon Kennard. Why Devon Kennard? I always said it, Kirsten Jones. Devon Kennard. He says, I will ride with him until the wheels fall off. Well, they already told us Patricia's coming back in 2020. I don't see Devon Kennard going anywhere. If Devon Kennard is gone, I would be so surprised. That's like a lock. I would put that as a lock as a player that's going to return. It's going to be interesting because you don't hear a lot. Players aren't going to talk about be like, oh, I don't like this guy. But I would say that there's going to be a lot of changes this offseason, and don't be surprised if we bring in some past Patriots, guys that he knows. We're going to see a lot of that once again. We saw that this last offseason. We knew that was a trend. We've seen it throughout the entire season when he brings in players. Don't be surprised if this offseason is very similar. Now, knowing that he's coming back 2020, it needs to work, okay? We need to see this start to improve because the process is all cool. And I understand, you know, you want guys that you like and you need players like you because that is the most important thing. You have to know that your players like you. If your players do not like you, that is not a good thing. And I'm not saying that any of those guys didn't like him, but they all spoke out about Jim Caldwell and being fired, and they all liked Jim Caldwell. Now they're not Lions, okay? So keep that in mind. That's what I think this process is. And I think after this offseason, we're going to see a lot more moves, and we're going to try to see if this process can start to show results. If it shows results, they'll probably be here even longer. If it doesn't, I don't know what the future looks like because I know that a lot of people still want to give more than 3 years. But Martha Ford, I don't think there's any way she would stand for another season like this. So what is the point of this video? Basically, the point is me to tell you guys what I think the process is and why we've been seeing so many crazy things. Quandre Diggs out of Detroit. He spoke out. His guy. Is that the right thing to do? Not necessarily. I don't know if it's the wrong thing. I don't know what he said. But now he's out of Detroit. Who else is going to be out of Detroit? Darius Slay. I hate to say it. I don't think Darius Slay is going to be here in 2020. Why? Because he was already upset with the Lions organization. I don't think he'll be here either. So I'm not saying this is right or wrong. Please understand, y'all. Please understand. I'm not saying this is the right thing to do, okay? But I'm telling you what I think is going to happen. When they keep saying, you know, oh, we're on a process. This is the process I think they're pointing towards. This is going to be interesting, y'all. This is going to be really interesting. I hope it works out. I'm a little worried because I don't have extreme confidence in Matt Patricia right now. I don't, and there's no reason to, right? We haven't seen anything. So we're kind of just hoping that it works out in this process that he's trying to put in place works. But I just had to point this out for you guys. This is going to be a fun ride. Let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.